welcome all. Gather around, gather around. Let's try to solve this problem. So we have an issue. All right. Woo. All right, guys. I'm gonna get into it quickly. All right, it's been 32 seconds already. Good. I'm not gonna wait for you guys to come in. I'm just gonna, wow, this thing is wet. I'm just gonna talk about it real quick because I don't have much time. So, my EXN is dead. The EXN is dead. How did it die? Okay, let's get into it. So, I was in the process. How's it going, man? EUC Serbia, how's it going? I can't wait for your updates on this new wheel, EUC Serbia. So, here's what happened. No cutouts. Well, there was a cutout, but I'm fine. So, I was in the process of creating a cooling system, as many of you know, for the EXN, because the EXN overheats too easily, and the way I really want to ride it, I can't ride it because it overheats so quickly. I don't have that issue with my high-speed MSP, and I don't have that issue with my torque MSP, although my torque MSP is in a different category, so let's throw that out. You know, I like high speed. Oh my goodness, who keeps calling? Let's turn this thing off here. Okay, stop calling. So here's the thing. Last night I decided to, I had a long sleep during the day. I couldn't go to the race. So I said, I can't go to the race. Let me work on something. I have some time. So I decided to work on the cooling system for the high-speed MSP. It's a beautiful cooling system that I came up with. It's basically using two fans, two computer fans, each running 12 volts. And I decided to use the cover for the EXN in order to incorporate these two fans in there so that I use the space that's in the wheel efficiently. You know what I mean? So I'm trying to talk fast because I have to go. But then, so the first thing I did was I tested a voltage regulator. I knew there was 12 volts coming from the board into the original fan, so I needed to double that voltage. I bought a voltage regulator. It's called a step up voltage regulator. I connected it to the fan after I've, pretty much modified the box how I wanted it. Made two holes on the top, put the fans on the bottom. At first I had them on the top, but the cover was kind of squishing it, so it couldn't really fit. So then I put it on the bottom and looked great. So then I tested it. I took out the original fan. When I took out the original fan, I said, what is the purpose of this fan? There was a purpose for this fan. I'm not sure if that's the reason it cut out, but I took the original fan out from its location and I ditched it. I put it in a cupboard or whatever. And I used the two, the source, the plus and the negative, for the system that I was building in order to generate 24 volts with the voltage regulator. So then, once it worked, once I proved that the system worked, I decided to, cover it up, okay? Well, first I had it open, and then I did a pendulum to bring it up to temperature. Once I brought it up to temperature around 134 degrees, I think at the time, the fans turned on, which is what I wanted. So then I covered it up, beautifully, because I wanted to see if I could make everything work. Then I started doing pendulums again. I brought it up to 156 degrees, and then the thing cut out on me. So I thought it was just a normal cutout, but I had a feeling it wasn't, because the way it cut out was the same way my high-speed MSP cut out when I took it hard off the line. So I tried turning it on, tried turning it on, nothing, dead. Opened the wheel up, no light. Usually when a board dies, you see a little red light on the board, and that little red light will at least tell you, hey, something is working. You know what I mean? But nothing was working. How's it going, guys? How's it going, NH guy? So then I tried ohming out certain things that would naturally be the culprit, and it was indeed a capacitor. There are three capacitors on the board. The first two capacitors look great, the small one and the big one. There's one small one and two big ones. The small one was great, one of the big ones was great, and then the third big one was not good. It looked like it had a black lining at the very tip of it, which was typical, which is pretty much the same thing that happened to my high-speed MSP when it blew a capacitor. So then I said to myself, damn, my EXN is dead. I killed it. But what I expected to happen, because I did this same test with the V5F when I had it, and I think I did it with the Tesla, I'm not sure. No, I did it with the V5F. I do the pendulum, and the more you do the pendulum, what happens is it's supposed to rise in temperature, and then it's supposed to tilt back and say, get off. That's not what happened. The wheel simply said, poof, and it died. So now my EXN is dead. So, you know, I'm about to go home after this, go to my mother's house, where I have some of my other wheels stored. And I'm gonna take the capacitor from the 100-volt MSP that blew, that I killed a while back. One of the capacitors is still good on there. It should be the same. And I'm gonna, you know, solder it to the board, because everything on the board looks fine. Everything else on the board looks great. It's just, you know, there's an open circuit now, and no power is getting through. So I have to close that circuit with the proper capacitor. Once I do that, I believe I should be able to turn the wheel back on, and then I will attempt to kill it again. Except this time, I plan on having the voltage meter, the voltmeter, connected to the capacitor to see at what point, or actually I could have the voltmeter connected and I could have EUC World running just to compare to see at what point is this capacitor blowing. Because if in fact this capacitor blows again the same way, that's a freaking problem, and it needs to be addressed, because there's no way a wheel should just be cutting out because of a surge going to a capacitor. There should be some type of protective measures. I don't know what it is. I've been looking it up this morning. I'm trying to find out how can a capacitor be prevented from overcharging, and not just overcharging, but how can it be protected from a surge of current? Because guys, even though most of you will probably not be riding your wheels crazy and you'll probably never experience that problem, it's still a problem. It's still a problem, and a wheel should not just cut out like that. The last time that happened was with the Sherman on the overheat hill, and my high-speed MSP when I took it off the line. So that was disappointing. And like I said, most of us, me, even like in my normal riding, you'll never experience a situation like that. But the fact that that situation exists is terrible. And who knows, maybe, I don't know. It's just interesting, but it's something I feel that should be addressed by the company, Begode. And I don't know if this happens with other wheels, but it definitely does happen with the Begode. And so I have a dead EXN right now. But if it happens like that, good morning, my EUC journey. If it happens like that again when I try to kill it, because what I should do, if it does die like that again, then I feel like you should be able to have a fourth capacitor that is not necessarily being used, but can be used when the limit, the voltage limit is reached with the original capacitor, so that it dumps that current surge into a standby capacitor. You know what I mean? So you have two capacitors and they both surge. If the limit is reached, it blows up. Well, it's only blowing up because it's like anything. When you have a cup and you overflow the cup, it just spills over. So what if we had a spillover, like a reservoir? You know what I mean? A reservoir capacitor that's just waiting in case there is a surge, so that energy goes into that capacitor as a reservoir, as reserve. If that can be established, if that can be done, that would be fantastic, because a wheel just cutting out like that is ridiculous. I'm very happy I didn't take the wheel out to test it. I don't know if the fact that I took out the original fan to cool down the heatsink, because that original fan looks like it serves no purpose, but it cools down the heatsink. But the capacitor was hot. When I touched the capacitor, it was extremely hot, and the heatsink was extremely hot. But even so, even if the heatsink was hot, shouldn't the wheel just say, like, shouldn't it like tilt back? I don't know. The point is, it cut out way before 170 degrees or 171 degrees Fahrenheit. It cut out at 156 degrees Fahrenheit, and I'll have to retest this to be sure that it wasn't the removal of the original fan that caused that. But I don't think so, because the capacitor just blew, and I don't think that's related. But let me know what you guys think in the comments. For those of you who are inclined, for those of you, how much is the replacement? It's only $240. It's not only $240. It's $240. But I'm not worried about that. What I'm worried about is the fact that I could just replace the capacitor, which is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna replace the capacitor, and I just want to retest it and see at what voltage, because there is a voltage rating on the capacitor, but I want to see at what point it blows up. Because if that's the case, my next step is to see if I could add a reservoir capacitor so that surge of voltage, or surge of current, sorry, can go into that reservoir capacitor, if that's even possible. You know what I mean? Because that's insane. That should not happen. It should have alerted me. It should have said, the pedal should have started tilting back, and it should have just said stop, something like that. But I will try to post the video later. You're not going to see the wheel cut out because I had the camera on the EUC World app, but you'll hear me and you'll hear the wheel cut out under me. And you'll also see the fan working, because it was a great setup, fantastic setup. But I think I may have been ill-advised in how I placed the two fans. The two fans were placed in the blackboard facing down on the components, when I think the real area I should be cooling was the heatsink. I don't know. Experimentations. Oh, man. Anyway, guys, let me see your comments and then I'm going to go. David Williams, I already responded to you. How much is the replacement of the board? It's around $240. Road trip, yep. Mike in Tampa, I doubt they're going to do anything for you because you modified it. No. I'm not expecting them to do anything for me, Mike in Tampa. All my experiments, I don't think there's ever been a time where I've asked a company to compensate me for my experiments. These are my experiments, and I take full responsibility for whatever happens. When I say I want them to do something, I meant the company. I want them to take a different route in how this is handled. That's all. Let's see. My EUC journey, he says, EUC upgrade, add capacitors on his wheel. Also, EUCU offers capacitor up. Okay, nice. I will look into that. I will absolutely look into that and try to see if I can recreate this problem. How much? Okay, let's see. NH guy says my V10F motherboard failed while riding. Yikes, that's terrible. Good morning, my UC again. Fig Newton says, damn. Mike's from Tampa says, hey, you stride. All right, guys, so now that you know what happened, like I said, nothing to fear here. This is not a public service announcement. This is just to say that while these wheels are amazing, there are obvious limitations to them, and some of these limitations should not be limitations at all. There should be kind of contingency plans in place, even though 90% of riders will never experience this particular event. There should be some type of surge protection for capacitors. That's all I'm trying to say. But anyway, guys, I'm gonna leave and I'm gonna work on that video to post for you guys. But the wheel is dead right now. The EXN is dead. Fortunately, I have experience in fixing wheels, so my high-speed MSP was dead the exact same way. I fixed it. It rides great. So let's see if I could fix this EXN and move on from there. All right, guys, peace. Have an awesome day. Gotta go. Happy riding. Okay, how do I end this thing? There we go.